Well, the space in the first cave was so enormous, and there was just these echoes of Buddhas repeated, and I think they were made with stencils because they were very, very accurate, that it was a very interesting and almost unnerving experience for me. This is the largest cave in the grottos, and it actually has 2 layers of painting. In the 9th century that was the original, and then it was painted over in the 11th century by a minority group. So not only were the caves built out of the cliffs here, all the freestanding sculptures and the high reliefs were built out of the same material.
On the ceiling here there's a really beautiful bird, and I guess in Buddhism it's called the bird with golden wings. It kind of looks similar to a phoenix, but on the image you can actually see also that there's dragons around it, and the guide was just telling me that this bird was one that could actually defeat dragons.
The second cave we visited today was made during the 6th century, which was the Tang Dynasty. Tang Dynasty was a time of when art flourished and there was a lot of money and commerce coming through Dunhuang. Initially, I was very overwhelmed by the illustrations on the walls. They were very busy and they depicted the life of Buddha.
The second cave we came to, I was actually really impressed with, and I could sort of relate to some of the artwork in there because there was some of it that almost reminded me of some contemporary art.
I think Picasso may have visited this cave and got some inspiration from some of these paintings on the walls here.
Some of the figures and the lines that they used were really similar in style to things that I've seen used in European art and things like that.
These characters are very animated. I'm surprised how much line is used in the paintings. Nothing like the Renaissance. The sculptures that I was actually drawing were so much out of proportion that it made me recognize the fact that maybe there was a bit of Greek influence, because the head of the sculptures were so large and the feet were smaller. From a viewer's angle looking up, the head is in complete and perfect proportion with the rest of the body.
Another really cool part of this cave that I was able to see was they had images of these flying angels, and most of these were on the ceiling. These were images and paintings that we'd actually seen in town, and so I think it's sort of a special image to all the people in this area. And so it was really kind of cool to see those and relate it to some of the other things that I've seen, because I've been looking forward to seeing the actual images ever since we arrived here in China.
When I first walked in here, I didn't really know what to expect, and I was looking at the floor and the walls around, and all of a sudden when I looked up, it really caught me by surprise. I was like, wow, it's such a huge statue. It's just a gigantic relief sculpture of Buddha, and it's just kind of standing against the wall, but you really have to look straight up at the statue in order to see it, because the room that it's in is actually really based just specifically around the statue.
A structure had been built around this because the original one had actually fallen down in an earthquake. So this Buddha had been open to the elements for many years, until 1920, when they actually built the new facade for that particular cave, which is actually this central building right here.
The last cave we visited today was built during the 8th century. This cave has the second largest Buddha, standing about 90 feet tall.
This Buddha had a lot more detail, and the hands, as they were one was sitting up and the other one was kind of hanging down over the edge of one of its knees, and it's just, the lines were so delicate.
One thing that's known about this particular Buddha is that it has one of the most beautiful rendered hand. It's left hand. I thought it was very interesting because the fingernails actually curl up. But what got my attention was its right hand. The right hand had actually been restored, and they restored it so that it was very simple and only preserved it and kept it from falling down.
The head of this particular Buddha is a quarter or 1/4 of the size of the rest of the body. So the head is actually much bigger than the rest of it. In looking up, it helps put the whole thing into perspective. So when we're looking up, you can actually still see the facial features.
I think a cool thing that I found out about it was how they actually built it and how they started. Because where it started was about midway up where the Buddha is. They dug a cave going in, and then they dug down, and then they dug up. So they actually dug the cave from the middle point. And then from there, they pulled out the general structure as a relief away from the wall of what the Buddha was going to look like. And then they added over top of that the different layers of detail, which consisted of straw and clays and plasters before they put on the actual paint.